The 90s was dominated by Michael Jordan, soaring through the sky, floating in the air on his way to 6 championships. But the reason Michael Jordan scored over 32,000 points in the NBA wasn't because of that, it was because of this. And if you watched the Bulls and their triangle offense, we saw great teamwork. A team that had well-defined roles,
Stay in your lane.
paired with the best basketball player ever. But something people never mentioned was all 5 players' ability to score in the mid-range. What made the Chicago Bulls so difficult to guard as a team was the fact that all 5 players were able to step into mid-range shots with confidence. This meant that as a defense, you had to be prepared for all 5 players because they're all a threat to score. The Chicago Bulls also understood that with such a heavy emphasis on the inside and mid-range game, they needed to spread the floor to create space. Up until this point, guards didn't have success that big men have had since the 50s, so teams were still building around centers. The idea of building your team around a scoring guard was still new, and until Jordan began winning titles, the consensus was volume shooters can't lead a team to championships. What the big man and the scoring guard had in common, however, was the need for shooters. Players like Michael Cooper, who played for the Lakers in the 80s, did a great job of spreading the floor. This was because of the introduction of the three-point line in the NBA in 1979. His point guard needed driving lanes, and his center needed room to operate, making shooters increasingly important. And while guys just kept getting better at it, the three-point shooter went from being a role player to all-stars, and I think that the NBA took notice. The NBA experimented with the three-point line from the 94-95 through the 96-97 season. During this time, the three-point line moved closer from 23 feet 9 inches to a uniform 22 feet around the perimeter, which is what the corner three has always been. The reason for this was the league saw all-time low-scoring games in the seasons prior to 1994 and hoped that the change would increase scoring. Although the amount of threes went up in those years, the three-point line went back to 23 feet 9 inches because the league's scoring average actually went down. But I don't think that the experiment was a complete failure.
I have failed you.
Although points per game went down for the league, individually, the elite three-point shooters were having some of their best seasons. In 1995, John Starks was the first player ever with over 200 threes made with 217. And other shooters were starting to shoot at the same rate. So, the experiment did work. If a three-point shooter gets more opportunities from three, then their points should go up. However, the rest of the league suffered. And I think that's as simple as players playing to their strengths. Shooters shooting more plays into their favor. And if you aren't a good three-point shooter and you keep shooting threes, well, you might look like you don't know what you're doing out there. More importantly though, the visuals of seeing your favorite three-point shooter jack up shots and increase their scoring had a positive effect on up-and-coming players. Similar to players looking at Jordan and copying his game, the same could be said for shooters, especially from 94 to 97.